Welcome, everybody. My name is Vani Nilakantan, and I will be talking to you today about the optimization of research infrastructure and clinical trial implementation in a large health system beyond COVID. As a brief introduction of myself, my name is Vani again. I'm the Vice President for Research at Allina Health, which is a large integrated health system in Minneapolis. This is a pre-recorded session. But I will be online. So if you have any questions, please enter them in the chat box on the sidebar to your right, and I will make sure I.
So it is a pre-recorded presentation. Vani is in the room to take Q&A. So I guess, Doctor, if you want to go ahead with the small.
Sure. Dr. Vani Nilakantan is the VP Research at Allina Health System, Minneapolis. She has over 25 years research experience in academic and hospital-based settings. At Allina Health, she is the executive head of research for the health system, provides executive-level leadership for clinical and basic research within an integrated hospital system environment, and is the authorized organizational representative and signatory for this system. Dr. Nilakantan provides visionary perspective of the future of research at a major health institution. She also sets strategic direction for research and organized research structure for Allina Health System. Welcome, and I see this is going to be a pre-recorded presentation, and I guess the title is Optimization of Research Infrastructure for Clinical Trial Implementation Beyond COVID.
Welcome, everybody. My name is Vani Nilakantan, and I will be talking to you today about the optimization of research infrastructure and clinical trial implementation in a large health system beyond COVID. As a brief introduction of myself, my name is Vani again. I'm the Vice President for Research at Allina Health, which is a large integrated health system in Minneapolis. This is a pre-recorded session. But I will be online. So if you have any questions, please enter them in the chat box on the sidebar to your right, and I will make sure I get them answered for you today. So Allina Health is a large integrated health system in Minneapolis, Minnesota. We have 13 hospitals, over 28,000 employees, and 1,500 employed and contracted physicians. We're focused in on cancer, cardiovascular, neuroscience, and other clinical service areas that we are focused on, and situated in the beautiful city of Minneapolis. To the right, you can see this on the banks of the Mississippi with the Stone Arch Bridge, which is the bridge that the downtown sits on. Before I get going into COVID and how it has affected our system and the future of what COVID will do to research, it's really important to focus in on what a research vision and mission for the organization should be. For us, it is very simple, and it's simply stated and has three goals. One that advances healthcare, improves patient lives, and promotes population health in the communities we serve. Our research is focused primarily on the areas that I have shown in the graphic on the left-hand side here. Leading-edge drug and device therapies are our bread and butter. We do investigator-initiated research, population health and social determinants of health, how to use EHR as the electronic health record, as well as AI tools, and care model redesign. All these things intersect within our centralized research structure. This was organized under a single umbrella to achieve expanded visibility and connection to Allina Health strategic initiatives, the organizational alignment and portfolio support through an infrastructure build-out, a streamlining of processes so that we have operational excellence and efficiencies, an increased opportunity to leverage existing and new capabilities, and strengthening partnerships with the medical and research leadership teams. The core principles and foundational principles of integrity, accountability, compliance, as well as social justice were at the very core of all that we do. And we wanted to create trust with what we are doing. So the process for us in research strategic planning started with the identification of 5 very specific questions. First, how do we demonstrate the value of research at Allina Health? What is the value proposition? How do we show the benefit of what we are doing at Allina Health? How can we create a more targeted research portfolio? Because we simply cannot do everything, and we cannot be spread very thin because we are a very lean team. How can we reduce the variation and standardize our processes while gaining efficiencies and make sure that we don't have duplications? This is very helpful for financial sustainability. What are our opportunities for external collaborations? And finally, what are the opportunities for research funding, whether it is grants, contracts, intellectual property, philanthropy, or venture capital investment? With all of that, we designed and formed a research structure and a governance structure which was effective for our organization. And I'm sure many of you have similar structures in place. We are centralized, as I had mentioned, for the purposes of financial transparency, standardized processes, and to show that we had solid outcomes. We have research councils. Research councils are made up of physicians, researchers, and research administrative individuals, including budgeting, contracting individuals and legal individuals, to make sure that we are identifying and prioritizing studies. We have a research directors roundtable. Research directors are for each clinical service line that report up centrally through me. We meet weekly. We discuss issues and we capture outcomes, as well as identify concerns and red flags where we can help remove barriers. Research Oversight Council sits on top of the RDR. The Research Oversight Council is similar to a board of directors for research that really sets the strategic priorities for research and financial sustainability. Conflicts are managed through research conflicts of interest committees, and privacy and data issues are managed through data security committees. In addition to that, we were very, urgent fashion had to form the COVID committee, which I will talk more about in the next few slides. Because we had put forth a very strong infrastructure, we were able to capture research metrics and outcomes. This increased the financial and patient outcome transparency. We had ability to produce metrics, dashboards, and annual reports. This is key. The third bullet point here, decreasing timeline to contract completion, was very key for us because we did not want to lose important trials and critical trials. And again, this helped us in COVID. We decreased our external consultant costs and were able to do things in-house where possible, contract outsource where possible, and be very nuanced about it. Implementation of a tool or a system such as the Epic research functionality or a clinical trial management system is very helpful for tracking not only the patient revenue, but also outcomes from patients. This also provides us the ability to participate in national networks and programs such as PCORNet or All of Us, the NIH-funded precision medicine program. And you can increase patient enrollment revenue, grants, contracts, and scholarship. And we have shown by doing the basic foundational structures, we have increased all of the metrics by 15% and also have increased federal indirect cost rate, ultimately getting to the goal of Aharp Accreditation. So we were carrying along very well and things were going well until 2020. And of course, 2020 brought about a transformational change for all of us and for the world. When COVID hit, we realized that some of the foundational structures we had put in place were very helpful for us, and we still had some ways to go in other areas. I have a quote here by Darwin, which I think identifies it very well. It is really not the strongest or the most intelligent who will survive, but those who can manage change the best. So COVID was an inflection point for all of us. We were in a situation where we did not know whether to get in too early or bet on a wrong horse, get in on the right trial, which trial was the right trial to participate in. We did not want to be too late and risk our patient lives and the safety of our employees. So this was really a very, very, very active period, I would say. Here is a brief snapshot of the timeline, starting from the very first case that was identified in Wuhan, China on November 17th of 2019, and a year later on December 18th, 2020, all the different events that have happened through COVID. And what is most, and March 11th was when the WHO identified COVID as a pandemic. For me, what was most interesting through all of this was that we were able to produce such scientific breakthroughs from the genetic sequencing of the virus itself, the code itself, to where we are today, several tens of thousands of people vaccinated within a span of a year. To get to a phase 3 trial and complete several phase 3 trials within the span of just 9 months was quite amazing. Industry-wide, there were several COVID-related issues, which I think is common to all of us. The quarantine and social distancing made healthcare access very difficult. In our own health system, we had to pause and halt several surgeries due to social distancing measures we had to put in place. We also were faced with the murder of George Floyd in Minneapolis around the same time frame. So it was a very difficult and very troubling period. Many clinical trials had been halted or suspended by May of 2020 in more than 100 companies, and 250 trials had already paused. March 18th, 2020, the FDA issues a guidance on the conduct, which was updated on June 3rd to make sure that they included the impact on clinical sites. Recommendations were provided to sites to form central committee reviews and statistical considerations, etc. There was a decision made, at some point to unblind some trials and early termination to offer vaccines, etc. And you'll hear a lot more about decentralized trials in this conference, and we have already heard a lot about this. And this was really key. And again, for us, I don't want to repeat it, but for us too, this was a very big focus in home monitoring, telemonitoring, and e-consenting. The role of data safety monitoring boards, having clear stopping rules was important. Use of existing data, meta-analyses, and sharing of the dissemination of results in a quick but yet data-driven, fact-driven manner was key. The data was very muddled. The literature got very muddled very quickly. There was new information coming out weekly, if not daily, and it was sometimes very hard to keep up with the literature. So successful organizations that really managed through COVID well had a few things, I think, that in common that helped them. There was organizational agility, less bureaucratic. They were flatter organizations, and we are proud to be one of those. There was already a prior investment or a planned investment in remote technologies, whether it was virtual care or e-consenting. They were able to rapidly form COVID and other incident command structures, which we did very rapidly within a couple of weeks. Task forces and research councils were formed. We had to do quick and compliant reviews. We were meeting at least once a week or even more with internal, external partnerships, bringing in experts as we needed them. Experienced teams in research operations, regulatory, budgeting were all very crucial to success. And again, as I had mentioned earlier, the research infrastructure that we had put in place helped us with all of this. Having an integrated EHR and CTMS and utilize those for clinical trial participant tracking was key. And communication appropriately, communicate often, communicate in the right way, communicate to the right individuals and the right facts. So what did we do? We put together within 2 weeks, I think early March, within 2 weeks of the pandemic, we put together a system-wide research guidance. We did not halt all trials. We paused some. And those trials that required, where patients needed immediate care, such as some cancer trials, we continued with very careful social distancing measures in place. We formed a system-wide ad hoc COVID research review committee immediately, and as we were getting flooded with requests, and we knew that we needed to have a strategic prioritization of those. We meet once a week. We have reviewed at least one study per week. We meet more often if needed. It's a very, very busy and very active committee. We have reviewed, since March, we have reviewed at least 50 or 60 studies. We made a rapid shift to teleconsenting. It helped for us in our system because our system had already gone to the virtual care and this had increased by 8,000%. And we already had the tools, the virtual means, the computer systems and all of that in place. So it was very easy for us to just adopt that. And basically our IS teams were very helpful to help our research teams with all the telemonitoring information. And because we have a very experienced and talented sponsored programs office, which also reports to me, we were the subject matter experts for the CARES Act funding and the government funding task force for our organization. And they helped to get significant dollars for provider relief funds to ensure that our patients were taken care of appropriately through the CARES Act funding. So as a result for all of this, our research response overall to COVID showed an increased activity in COVID research by greater than 30%. There were several trials that we participated in, including convalescent plasma, remdesivir. We also were part of the HERO trial, which is initiated by Duke University. We have antibody trials. We were part of the Allina Health, Allina-wide COVID registry, and also managed this with American Heart Association, as well as the Society for Critical Care Medicine, which are national registries, and we wanted to participate in that. And the Johnson & Johnson vaccine trial was ultimately the cherry on top. So the Johnson & Johnson vaccine trial is called the Ensemble trial, and it's a key trial it's a multi-center phase 3 double-blinded trial, which has a 1-to-1 randomization of either placebo or the virus. The efficacy, safety, immunogenicity of the vaccine was assessed in adults 18 to 60 years of age and greater than 60 years of age, with those that are in or going to locations with a high-risk SARS-CoV-2 infection. Why did Johnson & Johnson partner with us? We were selected as a priority site primarily because of our infrastructure and our expertise in research and development, our talent, our deep research talent, our infectious disease team, and our data infrastructures. We have very strong data infrastructures in our system that helped us get the trial. And there was a priority in recruiting diverse trial participants, and Minnesota, as you know, has a very large Somali as well as Hmong population, and this was important for us. As of 12/18, which was the last day of enrollment in our site, we had 240 screens and 230 participants. We were the top quarter of 110 U.S. sites. Globally, there are 214 sites. The enrollment was closed. They dropped the number to 45,000, and it's a 2-year follow-up study. As you know, February 26th, that is this Friday, they are going up to the FDA for their review, and hopefully it'll get the EUA soon and can get into the arms of people soon. In the meantime, there is the Pfizer and the Moderna vaccines that are, as you know, tens of thousands are being vaccinated. So what is the COVID change future of research look like for us and for I'm sure for all of you? We anticipate a 15 to 20% increase in COVID and non-COVID research. We expect that there will be expanded trials with more virtual methods and more decentralized trials. We hope that there is better data integration across EHRs, across multiple health systems. I know that many large health systems have come together to form companies, data analytics companies, and that might be important. There's a greater prioritization of studies, focus on outcomes, and many times the nice-to-have studies, the Me Too studies might actually be eliminated. There will be an avoidance of waste and duplication. There is a deeper focus for patient-centered trials. We have used patient advocacy groups, the patient advisory councils in our health system as advisors for us to make sure that we are always have the patient at the center of what we do. And outsourcing resources, while we can build everything possible internally, there are some requirements. Sometimes you need to go outsource, and we have had good partnerships with several companies to be able to do that. Increased investment in data infrastructures. There will be an increased and sustained focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I'll talk more about this later. And there is a change of the nature of what we call work today. So work from home becomes a reality and will most likely stay for us. Majority of our teams are working from home. Only the research coordinators, the RNs who actually are doing patient consenting and need to do some interventional have interventional access to patients are going into the hospitals and clinics. I want to focus a little bit on the core principle of diversity, equity, and inclusion because I think this is really important. We have done multiple things to ensure that we are able to have a diverse population and equal representation in our clinical trials. So we've translated our research and vaccine materials to multiple languages. We've held listening sessions with diverse employees to understand the barriers and how we can better support. We work with partners, whether it is community leaders and mosques or the Somali population or the Division of Indian Works, the Native American community or African American communities to really support community outreach. We have employees who serve as vaccine ambassadors within their own communities and educate individuals and make sure they remove any vaccine hesitancy and work on eliminating barriers for patients to access the vaccine, simple things like transportation, which might, when they do become eligible. So these are all not everything that we've worked on, but all things that we need to identify. So research priorities after COVID, really, I think research recovery beyond COVID what will research look like? How does it align with organizational strategies? What is the integration of research with clinical care? Where do research and clinical care work together and where do they not? How can we better integrate these two together? What are the visibility of research? How can we increase research visibility internally and externally? What are some steps taken for DE&I, include DE&I, and virtual trials and technology? How do we best use technology, learn from best practices? We have to be able to show value for clinical trials, whether it is the formation for quality, for formation of centers of excellence or improve patient outcomes, whether it is strategic, talent and physician recruitment, patient and migration, or financial, revenue generation with grants, contracts, and philanthropy. The drug development, which really should be on scientific rationale rather than empiric evidence. Data-driven go-no-go decisions for early to late phase trials, and conduct trials only those with highest impact and those that yield meaningful results to patients. Increasing the efficiency of clinical trial implementation, focusing on most important outcomes, agility in the drug development process and expediting and removing barriers, reduction of waste and reduction of improving the administrative processes by removing duplications are all extremely important. It's helped us. Tremendously. We have reduced our timelines to contract trial completion by several weeks. And then decentralized trials, which you have already heard about a lot in this conference, but clinical trial participants identified via virtual tumor boards, home-based monitoring, which we do in the ensemble trial for blood draws, as well as an app-based patient-reported outcome system that has been developed, which is very simple to use. I'm a participant in the trial, and it's bi-weekly reporting and very easy to use. So what is the expected impact? You will be able to develop research programs that are clinically aligned. You can sustain and grow care delivery research programs, integrate into models of care and guidance pathways, and better patient outcomes at lower cost of care, focusing in on health economics. utilize the data structures more effectively to incorporate the new technologies and tools such as machine learning, NLP, and digital tools, provide the infrastructure support necessary, data, regulatory, research coordination support, and ensure that there is diversity, equity, and inclusion in research, and provide opportunities irrespective of color, sexual orientation, socioeconomic status, or gender. So some of the lessons learned here are really make value-driven decisions, enact the structure to really enhance your return on investment, make sure your structure is right-sized for the organization, not too big, not too small. It's like the Goldilocks problem. Streamline your processes and remove duplications where you can, which we have done, quite effectively. Focus on outcomes. It needs to be patient, scholarship, revenue, and community. And identify how your technology can help and use it appropriately. Don't shove technology down people's throats, but make sure it is used appropriately. Build long-term relationships and focus on the long goal with like-minded partnerships. Organizations that are similar to yours or have the same values would be good partners. And do not shy away from tough decisions and learn to say no. So do your research, engage stakeholders and listen, get your executive leadership buy-in. That's really key for each organization. Communicate often, and there'll be a lot of noise. Don't get drowned out of noise, and don't lose sight of the goal and vision. And with that, I shall pause and end and answer any questions you may have. Thank you very much. Appreciate the time. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. All righty. So I know Vani is in the audience. If anybody has a question, she's happy to answer any of your questions in the chat box or in the discuss tab. I can see her over there too. So Dr. Oscar, if you have any remarks for her.
Excellent presentation, very useful for everyone attending this meeting. I don't have any comments or questions.
Wonderful. And before we head to our next last presenter before our 1 hour break, I do want to let everybody know you can always connect with our speakers offline via email with your questions as well. And with that said, Dr. Oscar,